Hi again. We are going to look at programming. We write our first component. Soon video demonstration, that will be this. I'm already in English, but you've got your language options, Spanish and Italian. Read through this, and basically we are being given a problem. And the problem is, problem analysis, problem. We are working for an insurer that asks us to implement the temperature of a certain city to the RADX network so that other smart contracts can have the data on platform to execute insurance policies. We must be able to modify the temperature in order to have the data updated. All right. Analysis. If you notice, the insurer is asking us to create a mechanism to introduce external data to the RADX Oracle network. As you know, DLT networks do not know what happens outside of them, and the way to introduce external data to a DLT network is through transactions. Then we divide the problem up, and then we've got some flowcharts here on what we're going to do. We have three parts. We're going to create the component, we're going to read the temperature, and here we have the ability to change the temperature. All right, I'm going to jump straight into the programming and you can follow along. So let's get set up. Terminal, new terminal. Jump into the RADX DLT crypto folder, jump into the projects folder, and then use Scrypto to create a new package. And the new package we will call first component. And then we will go into first component. And then I can get rid of all this. So I'm going to use this for my terminal. And here, first component is created. And let's look at this. So we get the blueprint, the Hello World blueprint, which we don't really need. So we can get rid of this. We will need a structure. We will need to implement something, but let's call it temperature. And let's call this temperature. There must be capitals. We're not going to create any coins. We will need this to instantiate everything, so we'll call it instantiate temp. We will need self, so we can then call methods. We'll need to instantiate it to set it up. Then we'll need to globalize it so it gets an address that people can use. And we don't need a free token, but we'll just get rid of this and then we'll change that to a different method in a minute. So am I correct? I've got structure temperature, we're going to implement temperature, and we're going to instantiate the temp. Right, so we are now good to go. From our instructions, we have create a component with an initial temperature, and that is basically all we're going to do. So let's do that now. So in our structure, we'll have a temperature, which will be a decimal. And then when we set this up, we will call the initial temperature an instantiate temp. So we want to put in here that we are going to have an initial temperature, which we will pass in when we set it up. Will be a decimal, and then that will give us a component address, and then in here the temperature that we have in our struct will take the initial temp value. Save that. Now this here I'm not using, I'm just going to get rid of it for now. Save it again, and at this point we've created something here, so let's have a look at this and see what this actually does. So I'm going to create an account. So resim new account. I'm going to save the variables. So now let's do resim publish everything. Takes however long it takes. So we've now got the package address. Now let's create the component. So we want the RADX engine simulator. We're going to call the function, and the function is at this package address. The function is in temperature and is called instantiate temp. If we look at this and we look at our hello world here, we have a difference. Here we've got nothing in the brackets. Here we've got an initial temp in the brackets. So this is an argument. So we're going to pass in the initial temperature when we start this. If I try that now, if I just enter this now, I'm going to get an error. And you can see it here, I've got an error and it says I'm missing an argument. But because we're passing in the argument here, we need to pass in an argument here. Now this time we'll pass in the argument, so we can copy this. And let's put a temperature at 25.00. And let's grab the component address and look inside the component. So what do we have here? We have the component address, we have a blueprint called temperature, we have a struct with the decimal 25 stored in it and no resources. So exactly as we expected. Alright, so we've created the component. Now we need to create read temperature. It's going to be a method. It's going to read the temperature, which we have here, and it's going to print the temperature is degrees. Okay, let's do it. So it's a method. So we need to come in here, pub fn, and the method we'll call read temp. And the method is going to refer to self. And now we need to tell it what to do. So it's going to print the temperature is curly braces degrees. And then the curly braces are going to be filled with from self. It's going to take the value temperature. And we should be good to go. So let's have a look at that and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So we've made a change, so we have to save it and then republish it. To republish it, we use RADX Engine Simulator, publish, and if we just publish it like this, we will end up with a completely new component. So we can add a flag. We can use the flag package address followed by the variable package, which will republish it to the same address that we have. And what this also does, it keeps the component intact, so we can now do resim show component, and we still have our 25. Now let's check read temperature. So RADX Engine Simulator, call the method we've just created, and the method we've just created is in this component, and it's called read temp. And this should read the value 25 from the struct. And up here you can see it says the temperature misspelt is 25 degrees. Okay, so that works. And finally, the last part, which is the ability to change the temperature and enter a new temperature. Okay, let's delve into it. Again, we will need another method. So a public function is going to change the temperature. So it has to be a mutable reference to self because the input can change. And the input we will call new temperature, and the new temperature will be a decimal. All right, now let's tell it what to do. So when we pass the argument new temperature, we want the temperature we're currently storing to become the new temperature. All right, we should now be good to go. Save it, and let's come in here, and we have to republish it. So RADX Engine Simulator, publish, and we're publishing it with the flag package address, and we're keeping the same package address. We can have a look at the component. It's still intact. The 25 is still there because we used the package address flag. So we don't have to recreate the component. So now let's just use the RADX Engine Simulator, and we will call the method we've just created from the existing component, and the method is change temp, and it needs an argument. So let's say it's 12.5, and we should be good to go. Okay, now let's call the other method, resim call method from the same component, and it was called read temp. And it doesn't need an argument. It's going to read the value, which hopefully will be 12.5. And it says here the temperature is 12.5, still with my typo. Okay, hope that made sense. Take your time, understand it, and then we'll move on to the next one. Thank you very much for watching.